Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dev Diary. Today we are working on a small project from my to-do list with a pretty crazy history. So before we get into things, remember to leave a like if you enjoyed today's video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We do fun game dev stuff here every single week, so turn on notifications to never miss future videos. So this is Alien Farm, a mixture of an action game and farm game. Now this was an idea initially inspired by a game from the now defunct Flambeer called Ultrabugs. Now in Ultrabugs, the player is in charge of the pace of the game because defeating an enemy alien would produce more, which would in turn slowly ramp up the difficulty. And long story short, a farming variation would sit on my to-do list for a few years. So let's take a look at just how Alien Farm works. Now a lot of this will look familiar if you've been here a while. The controls are typical for a top-down shooter and our bullets are pulled to help with the optimization. Now this version deviates from the Ultrabug inspired version by adding an oxygen meter to the game. This sets a determined pace for the gameplay, requiring the player to replenish their oxygen or lose the game. And replenishment is done by defeating plants. For the sake of time, the creation of these plants were given to the player to place at their own speed. Now the twist here is to get to that point, the plants must be watered for a certain amount of time, and so the player has access to a secondary gun that does just that. Once a plant has reached full maturity, it'll begin attacking the player. And there are 4 types of enemies that can potentially spawn from a seed. Starting with the tank of the plants, Gassy will create clouds of toxic gas around itself every few seconds. Hottie fires 8 spicy projectiles in a flower pattern. Hypno fires a single slow-moving but homing projectile. And Normie fires your standard run-of-the-mill single projectile. And of course, each projectile type have their own little behavior tweaks to keep things interesting. And it is when the plants reach their full maturity stage, they can then be destroyed with the player's first weapon. And when destroyed, a plant has the chance to drop a bunch of oxygen in ball form or a health canister. Yes, neither really makes sense, but these are alien plants, so, you know, it could be in their DNA to produce oxygen in ball form, and healing juices already canned. Anyway, the original gameplay loop was meant to start with 1 plant, and each plant destroyed would make more. But for the sake of time and to test other code, the gameplay was simplified to what you see here. Now what's funny is this project was once a much more full experience. However, a lot of its features and ideas were taken and then implemented into other projects, a lot of them turning out to be for Plants vs. Zombies projects. For example, a lot of the weird little nuggets that showed up in Plants vs. Vampires probably originated from this project. And a large reason this one never really took off was because it felt a little too similar to the game Atomic Crops. So unlike a lot of the other stuff that we've showcased this month, I'm not so sure that this one has much potential future growth, at least not as it is now. But as always, maybe I'm wrong, you know? If you do see potential in the idea and have suggestions as to where we could take it, let me know in the comments. I'd love to get more thoughts and perspectives on this one. And as always, if you would like to play other games previously featured on the channel or get early access to the weekly videos, subscribe to my Patreon. With that said, brings us to the end of today's Dev Diary, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.